Hello everyone, Jeff here from Respawn Studios, kicking off my brand new series of where I will attempt to hit Legend in Hearthstone for the first time. If you've seen a couple of my Hearthstone videos in the past, I used to be pretty bad, even though talking like I knew what I was doing, but I've played tons and tons of games since then. I've reached rank 5, rank 4, rank 7, rank 8 in different seasons, but I've never really been too into the grind to try and reach Legend, but now I'm going to. Not just for the sake of making this series for our channel, but because I think I can. I've been keeping track of my stats the last couple months, seeing what good matchups are for me, what decks I like most and play best with. So to start this video, I'm going to show you my decks for each of the 9 classes. I'm probably going to try and stick to 2 or 3 of these, but I imagine the meta is still going to pretty much be the same as it was last month, May of 2015, so I'm going to stick with these. And then we're going to go through 3 full gameplays. I'll be breaking down my choices in the games. Not live, this will be after the fact, because unfortunately I don't have it set up that way to record my voice like that. But I have a pretty standard Zulak with Mal'Ganis, Lord Jaraxxus, a couple Void Callers. I've mostly debated whether or not to have a second Dark Iron Dwarf, maybe none at all. Get some more early game in, like another Spider, another Dark Bomb, but I think I'm going to keep it as is for now. It's been pretty consistent. See, again, I have a deck for each of the 9 classes. I don't often play as everyone, but I do have at least, I think, 100 wins with everyone. No, I think I have 80 something with Warrior, maybe? But here's my variation of Priest. I know a lot of people are running Dragon Priest right now, but here's Mech Priest, which is also pretty popular. This is I think this is even one of the builds that is up on Hearthstone that someone said had them like get an 85% win rate from rank 5 to Legend. Okay. But I'm actually going to make a little switch even right now. I'm going to take out a Holy Fire, which I haven't seen to get much play or use. It doesn't really provide important tempo swings, so I'm going to add a second Cabal Shadow Priest. I was considering adding a Shadow Madness, but getting a 4/5 body and potentially taking an opponent's minion as well is a really big swing, so I'm going to stick with that. And also Holy Fire costs 6, so it's like a 1-to-1 change for the Cabal Shadow. And then you saw the curve, it's pretty good. A lot of, oddly enough, 4-drops are the least plentiful here. So Holy Nova could be a card. But like facing so many Patron Warriors, of course with Grim Patrons or Falling Berserkers, which are 2/4s or 3/3s, it's not going to kill them, it's going to make it worse. So maybe it's best not to use it. Speaking of Grim Patron Warrior, my one variation, I only run 1 Unstable Ghoul. Instead I run a Raging Worgen, which I find has really good synergy with an Inner Rage. Alright, but here's the deck I'm going to be using today for my 3 wins in a row. Tempo Mage. This is very similar to a lot of other people's Tempo Mages, but I like switching out a couple cards that I found to be more stable. Here's my Druid. It's a little bit different than other people's. I like having a Druid of the Flame, actually. An Acidic Swamp Ooze to get rid of weapons for a Hunter or a Patron Warrior is very important. So you don't... Of course you could play the Ooze as like a turn 2 play against most classes, but against, again, the Patron Warrior and a Hunter, you probably just want to hold on to the Ooze to get rid of a weapon in a key scenario. But I'm going to drop one of the Druids of the Flame, put in Emperor, because I do have a lot of 2 and 3 action already. Here's my Hunter. See, all the cards are gold. I'm going for gold. I have 398 wins, I think, as a Hunter. I really do not like Face Hunter. I think playing it is stupid. It relies on too many gimmicks and just hoping your opponent doesn't have any taunts, basically. I also don't like Hybrid Hunter, which has a lot of the elements of Face Hunter. I just think that's stupid. So I mostly do like a mid-range Hunter. But I've found that I have 4 traps, you see, not even a snake trap. I run 2 explosive, 2 freezing, so I'm going to switch out 1 explosive and get some other early game minions in there. I'm actually going to get an Annoyatron so I could get some board presence, have some time to get to my later game things, so they have to attack it twice, or at least waste a silence on it or something. Get 1 Knife Juggler in there. And playing the Knife Juggler on like turn 2 might give people the appearance that I'm doing some kind of faster hunter, so it also is kind of like a tease card that way. Or you can keep it to combo with Unleash the Hounds, of course. Alright, my Paladin deck is essentially Brian Kibler. His Dragon deck went through like 24 revisions, and this was, I think, his final version. He had 2 of, I don't even know what the card's called, the Corruptor, I think. When you have a drag in your hand, you do 3 damage. He had 2 of that. I don't like that. So I took 1 of those out. I don't know what I replaced it with. Some early game, I think. Or no, like another 4 or 5 drop. My Shaman deck, you see, is called Standard Shaman. This is pretty much what Shaman's been for a while. Other than Mech Shaman, this is like the Standard Shaman. You see, I don't even have any cards from BlackRock in it. Alright, but I'll shut up. And we are finally going to get to our 3 matches soon with my Tempo Mage. First, I'm just going to run through my classes, show you the wins I have. I had most on Mage coming into this. I had 425. And I was never a Mech Mage person. I did not play Mech Mage when that was so overpowered. I mostly, in my first few months of playing the game, just played Mage because I liked the cards. I always used Fairy Dragon. I always had 2 Polymorphs. I just used cards I enjoyed playing, and that's the class I focused on, so that's what I have most wins as. But I have a decent amount of wins for a lot of classes. We're going to try and get gold, though, also, during this series with Mage. And we're off to a good start. Again, I win these 3 games, these first 3 games of the June season, so let's go. Okay, so terrible, terrible opening hand. You might want to keep a Frost Elemental versus a Handlock, but again, maybe not. It's a 3/6. What are you going to do against their big minions? So I throw everything away. Most often when you're facing a Warlock, it's going to be either Handlock or Zoo, or some form of Zoo Lock, Demon Lock, anything like that. And you see I even get worse starting cards, so I have no early game whatsoever, and the point of a Tempo Mage is supposed to have early game and then transition into their mid-late game. But I'm lucky enough to draw into a 2-drop. So we're trying still to figure out what kind of Warlock they're running. They don't play anything turn 1, so they're most likely not a traditional Zoo, unless they had a really bad opening hand as well. So, why do I go for the 2/2 instead of the 3/2? Well, Mad Scientist, of course, will prop out a spell. If I play the 3/2, he can easily Dark Bomb it, and I get no value from it. I don't get any reduced spells. I'm not going to use a reduced Fireball on the next turn. And also, just playing the Scientist, he doesn't know what kind of mage I am. Maybe I'm a Freeze Mage, right? So, you can also bluff that way. Alright, so he's definitely some kind of Handlock, because he has an Owl, first off, and he uses it on a Mad Scientist, so we know exactly what he's trying to do, or what kind of Warlock he is now. Alright, so we're going to expect to see Twilight Drakes, or Ancient Watchers, or maybe even a Mountain Giant coming up, but he plays a Zombie Chow after tapping. Alright, so we have a couple options here. We could have just pinged the Zombie Chow and killed it with the Mad Scientist, but I elect to play here. So we could not play the Unstable Portal. We could have pinged and still killed the Zombie Chow, but why? We're not getting any health back. it doesn't matter if he trades for the Sorcerer's Apprentice now if we're able to play the portal. So I elect to go with the portal, and I ignore the Zombie Chow and attack face to get some more damage in. And we also get very fortunate with the very broken card Unstable Portal. We get a Harrison here for 2 mana. But the only way that a Warlock can get a weapon essentially is by playing Lord Jaraxxus, which they get a 3/8. So we're going to hold on to Harrison in case we get to that late game stage. Alright, so now here it makes sense for him to trade the Zombie Chow into my Sorcerer's Apprentice. Or he could do a trade with the Mad Scientist and have it stay alive, but I could ping it. But pinging it would also mean I could play less on my turn. But you see though, with 5 mana... Oh, and he also Dark Bombs, nice. Forgot about that. Alright, so my board's clear. He has an Ancient Watcher, which does nothing unless he taunts it up. So I'm still going to stick with my turn 5 play, go with the Drake. And unless he trades and uses another card, he can't immediately remove the Drake, so... Or unless he uses his other Owl, if he runs it to silence his Ancient Watcher, which wouldn't be the best play. He's probably waiting to silence like an Emperor or an Antonidas or some bigger threat for me. You see he's taking a lot of time. I very much am into watching the professional Hearthstone players play. So I know about Life Coach, aka Rope Coach. He takes a long time to make decisions, and I respect that. He's a top tier player, but so many people take so long to play their turns. Like, if my turns take more than like 5 to 10 seconds, it's terrible. I know. I'm constantly think I don't give a crap what my opponent's doing. I know what decks people play a lot, so I'm focused on what play I'm gonna make. So when it gets to my turn, okay, maybe make a quick recalculation, but I've already thought of what could they do and what could I do to answer that. So I'm already ready to play my turn when it gets to my turn. I'm not taking 30 to 60 seconds just to decide, well, maybe I'll do this. Yeah, of course there are factors that change that, what you draw that turn, if your opponent makes some big play. But most often you just want to play quickly. Alright, so here we again have a lot of options, but Dr. GG is of course the best. You get 3 minions, and I get it for 6 mana instead of 7 because of Emperor. And again, the only minion he has out there is pointless, the Ancient Watcher. It can't attack, so there's no threat of removal that way. He might Siphon Soul the Boom, but that wastes his turn. He only gets 3 health back. I still have 2 Boom Bots and board control. So I'm in really good shape right now, actually. And you see I have a lot of dangerous turns coming up with the reduced cost minions and Fireball. I have a lot to work with, a lot of different flexible options. So now it just depends on what he plays or doesn't play. And here we go, he's taking forever. With Handlock, it's more understandable because, again, Handlock, the point is you lock up your hand, you have tons of things going on. So you do have a lot of choices, but come on, man. If that's like the deck you're playing, you should know what the best plays against a lot of different scenarios are. Alright, so he Mortal Coils a Boombot and it kills off the Ancient Watcher, so he can't taunt that up, he can't silence it anymore. Unfortunately, I don't run any silences in this deck, so I have no way to silence the Sludge Belcher, so I'm just going to attack it, see if the Boombot kills it. No, but it only does 1 face damage, which is actually better for me instead of doing like 3 or 4, because then he could play cheaper Molten Giants next turn, which I definitely do not want. So I go with a Water Elemental and I ping to finish off his minion in case he like runs a Power Overwhelming, buffs it up, attacks, and Shadow Flames. But I also played the mirror entity, so whatever he plays, I'm going to get one. That was a huge mistake, playing his second Hellfire. He's done so much damage to himself. That was just horrible, so I kind of be a dick here and say greetings. Maybe he just knew we already lost, so he made that play, but it was not good. Alright, so there we go, our first win. And that will be our 426th with the mage in ranked play. And it's cool because we're also going to get the 3 different daily bounties, quests that I have during these 3 games. There was the first one that was a holdover. Alright, so here we go. Here's game 2. This is actually an interesting opponent. It's a Druid, right? So most often you face a combo Druid. Sometimes you can face a token Druid, but most often it's either the combo Druid, which is the Savage Roar. Oh my gosh, I always forget the name of the 6-mana spell that summons the 2/2 treants. Oh my god, that's embarrassing. So it's either that, the combo Druid, or the ramp Druid are the most common ones. And then token Druid is much less common. Alright, so switching out the opening cards I had, you don't want to keep a Frostbolt against a Druid. Why the hell would you? Unless they innervate out a piloted Shredder. But this guy is seemingly a dragon Druid, which I don't think I've ever seen. And I thank him because I now had a Frostbolt, so I could just freeze it, use the guy that he gave me, and he can't do anything, and I could just ping it off whenever the next turn. And he also uses a Wrath on a measly 2/3 Mana Worm. And because he used Coin and Innervate to get out the Hungry Dragon, that means he's probably not able to play anything for a couple turns, so it's great that I have my other Mana Worm, keep the pressure on. So Fairy Dragon, interesting. That again was one of my favorite cards when I was a newer player. I like that you couldn't target it with spells or hero power. Alright, so why do I not trade there? I want to keep damage up. I want to keep pressure on, make him having to do the trade. Because he could have tried to use his other Wrath on it and it would have killed it. And then he would have had a 3/2 and I've had nothing. But I highly doubt that he has both Wraths and he would use them that way that early. So here I get very fortunate again with an unstable portal. I get a Mechanical Yeti for 1 mana, so I'm able to play that. Having Sylvanas is also a good thing to have against a dragon deck, of course. Alright, so he gives me a Sludge Belcher. Thank you. Now, I could have attacked with the Mechanical Yeti and pinged to kill it, but no, of course we're going to go with the Flame Cannon, leave it with 1 health to ping it. We're even going to get in our other unstable portal, and we get very fortunate again. We get the Warriors card, the Siege Engine. So it's going to be a 2-mana 5/5, pretty sweet. And the Druid's only kind of area of effects spell is Swipe. Yeah, they have Starfall, they have Poison Seeds, things like that, but those are rarely see the light of day unless it's a Mill Druid. So having these 5 health guys is awesome. So I'm able to play almost all of my cards there. I have a counterspell out, so in case he tries to use Swipe, which, spoiler alert, he's going to try and use Swipe here, it's foiled, and that will essentially seal the game. Because I'll have so much on the board, and he'll have used 4 of his 7 mana trying to use a spell that does nothing. So Tempo Mage is also great for that. I know a lot of people just run Mirror Entity. Some people are even bold and run a Spellbinder, or Spellbender. What is it called? That when you target a minion with a spell, instead it targets a 1/3. But I believe Counterspell is hugely important. I only run 1. I used to do the opposite way, where I had 2 Counterspells and just 1 Mirror Entity. But Mirror Entity is just very, very powerful. Yeah, a lot of people are still expecting it, but you can still kind of use that to your advantage by not playing it in the early game. So they then, okay, I'm just going to play another low cost minion here, take that. You can wait to play it till it's like turn 6, turn 7. So they're forced to either play an off curve low cost minion or they play a big guy that you get. Alright, so you see, again, this game is pretty much already over. I have a 5-5, a 4-5, another mad scientist. I only have one card in my hand, but it is Sylvanas, one of the better legendaries in the game. Alright, so this time he's able to use swipe, but it doesn't do too terribly much. And I'm also going to get his Keeper of the Grove here. Alright, and the Emperor, beautiful. So I'm just going to go face here. There's no point in trading. I'm about to win anyway. And getting him down so low, even if he kills several of my guys, I'm in great shape. Just have lethal next turn. And the game's essentially over. So that's the power of Tempo Mage. A lot of things just snowball quickly. Either the mana worms being buffed up from early spells, your early spells just being able to decimate things like that from the Druid. They innervate something out and then you just flame cannon it and ping it and get rid of it. There's so many great things about Tempo Mage that quickly turn the game in your favor. And Unstable Portal. Sometimes you get like an Angry Chicken or sometimes you get Ragnaros. Like, it's crazy. It could have huge swings. It could be really bad for you, but more often than not, it's worth its value. Alright, so here we actually had enough gold for a pack, so I'm going to open the pack. We don't get anything exciting though. The one rare is Mass Dispel, which isn't even good. I'm going to break that down after I shut the video off here. But here we go, moving into our final game of getting off to a good start in my first attempt to get Legend. I mean, I've attempted it before, but I've never reached higher than rank 4, and I've kind of stopped there. When I hit rank 4, I didn't even play another ranked match after that. I was so excited. I took a screenshot that I had hit rank 4. But we're really going to go all out for this month. Alright, so this, again, will be the last game of part 1 of what should be 30 or more parts of our journey this month. And we're facing a warrior. So, like most classes, they're like the Warlock. You're either going to face Zoo or Hemlock. With Warrior, most often you're going to face Grim Patron Warrior. A lot of people follow net decks, so they see it on Hearthstone or Tempo Storm has had Grim Patron as their #1 best deck the last 2 months, or not 2 months, but 2 iterations of their Meta Snapshot article. So a lot of people are familiar with it now. You can face a Control Warrior, and sometimes you can even fake, like this guy does, that he is a Control Warrior by just armoring up, playing his weapons, not playing any early game minions. And also one of the early game minions for Patron Warrior can be Armor Smith, so it can even look like Control Warrior. But 99% of the time, I would say, facing a Warrior on ladder, it's going to be Patron Warrior. Unless you're at like rank 25, when they might not have the cards, or know about that. Okay, so I only have one minion here. And yeah, it's kind of inefficient for me to coin it out. He has his 3/1 weapon. He could just kill it. But what else am I going to do? I'm not going to play another secret. I mean, I could have, but I just don't see the value there. I want to keep him having to attack. Alright, so I actually get one of the best options here as my 2-drop. I get the Shielded Minibot. So actually at this point I was still even considering, is this guy a Control Warrior? And I still don't have a minion, or yeah, a minion in my hand. Arcane Missiles is kind of a dead card against Warrior. But I actually make an interesting use of it in a little bit when I draw the second one. Alright, so now I'm really thinking it's Control Warrior, given that turn. He definitely could have had something to play. But as it turns out, and as I probably should have just thought of, he's just trying to hold on to cards to do a big combo for the Grim Patron. Alright, so here, I'm like, alright, if I'm, even if he's Control Warrior, I guess I'm just going to try and kill him quickly, so I go all in, just use both Arcane Missiles. When else am I going to use them, really? I don't want to give him more Grim Patrons or buff up his Frothing Berserker or make him draw more cards with an Acolyte of Pain. So I just go ahead and play them then to get the damage in while I have the mana to spare. Alright, so I think now he starts to pull out the Grim Patron aspect of the deck. He pulls in the 2/3, which gives charge to any minion you play with 3 or less attack. And he's also going to play a Frothing Berserker, I believe, this turn. You see how long he's taking. He only has a few cards. I mean, maybe he's just trying to sit for an ultimate combo the following turn, but he knows I have 2 secrets out there, so one of them is most likely Mirror Entity. You don't really run Mana Worm in a Freeze Mage deck. Alright, so I was able to get his Warsong Commander. Now, Frothing Berserker, okay. He attacks with the weapon, but it still hasn't done its area of effect, so the Frothing Berserker isn't that great yet. Now, a couple options here, but the most obvious is to play some reduced cost spells. Now, I could just have gone with the Flame Cannon, but why would you do that? It could hit the other guy and buff up the Frothing Berserker, and then I'd have no way to kill it. So, going to attack the Warsong with the Shielded Minibot, ping it, and now, bam, Flame Cannon will definitely kill it. So now he has no board, he has 1 weapon that's about to expire. I still have my counter spell out there. I have 2 fireballs to potentially kill him coming up, so we're in great shape again. So we face 2 of the most common decks right now and 2 of the better ones, Handlock and Grim Patron Warrior, and we've been able to beat both of them with a lowly Tempo Mage. In tournament play, if you watch a lot of professional players at events, the most common mage is Freeze Mage. Or sometimes people still run Mech Mage, but Tempo Mage is kind of like seen as still kind of a low tier gimmicky thing because it relies on either getting a good opening hand. The other thing I want to talk about a little bit with Tempo Mage, a lot of people believe that Flame Waker is important for it. The 2/4, it costs 3 mana, and anytime you play a spell, it does 2 damage randomly across all enemies. So, say you play an Arcane Missile, it'll do the 3 damage randomly then, and then another 2 damage for having the Flame Waker out there. But Flame Waker sucks. It's a 2/4, and if you have to hold on to like your coin and Arcane Missiles to make it good, I just don't see that as important. And with the Patron Warrior as the big deck out there, like it's just going to give him more options and more minions. So no, I do not use Flame Wakers in Tempo Mage. I think it's stupid, especially for the meta right now. So having a 2/4 out there against a Druid or Handlock, it's dead. There's no point in having that card. It's just awful. Okay, now, I was considering just using, alright, perfect, the Fireball to do damage, but I draw Ragnaros. Now, things could have gotten actually a little dicey here if it only hit his minion, and then he was able to, say, use an Inner Rage Execute to get rid of it. But he would only be down to 1 card. I'd still have my Fireball and a Portal, so now that it hit face and he only has 2 health, I won, because I could Fireball next turn. So he worries about how to get rid of Ragnaros. He eventually attacks it and then executes, but I already won. So I'm going to light the fire here. I'm going to get rid of the vines. I'm going to knock the crystal out of the statue over here. But there we go. Off to a great 3-0 start. We're on a winning streak to begin my attempt at Legend for the June 2015 season. So again, this is Jeff from Respawn Studios. Thank you very much if you put up with this whole video. and I should be back with part 2 either later today or in the next couple days. Maybe I'll try and put up one video a day, not to overburden people with videos and having to hear my voice for so long. Alright, but again, thank you very much for watching. I will try and stick with Tempo Mage as it's working really well right now, and I should be back with part 2 soon.